In 1325, two Italian cities went to war. Not over territory. Not over gold. Not over a king's murder or a disputed throne. Over a bucket. A wooden bucket. From a well. The war lasted 12 years. Thousands of people died. Both cities were left economically ruined. And the bucket, the actual wooden bucket that started it all, still exists today. It is currently on display in a museum in Modena, Italy, inside a tower that was built specifically to hold it. This is that story. The cities were Bologna and Modena. Two prosperous medieval Italian city-states sitting roughly 25 miles apart in the Po Valley of northern Italy. By 1325, they had been rivals for generations, competing for trade routes, for influence, for the complicated political allegiances that defined medieval Italy. Bologna was larger, wealthier, and aligned with the Pope. Modena was smaller, scrappier, and aligned with the Holy Roman Emperor. They did not like each other. But they had managed, for years, to not go to war. Then someone stole a bucket. The exact circumstances are disputed by historians, as the exact circumstances of everything in medieval Italy tend to be. But the most widely accepted account goes like this: one night in 1325, a group of Modenese soldiers snuck into Bologna. They broke into the city. They walked to a public well in the center of town. And they took the wooden bucket used to draw water from it. Then they went home. Why? Nobody is entirely certain. The bucket may have been a symbolic trophy, a deliberate insult, the medieval equivalent of stealing someone's flag. It may have been a practical joke that got out of hand. It may have been the kind of drunken decision that looks very different in the morning than it did at midnight. What happened next was not ambiguous at all. Bologna wanted the bucket back. Modena said no. Bologna sent messengers. Modena sent them home empty-handed. Bologna sent a formal diplomatic demand. Modena declined. Bologna appealed to the Pope. The Pope sided with Bologna, he almost always sided with Bologna, and ordered Modena to return the bucket. Modena still said no. At this point, the bucket had become something larger than a bucket. It had become a matter of honor. Of sovereignty. Of the complex politics of Italian city-states in the 14th century, where every slight was a signal, every refusal was a statement, and backing down in public was something that simply was not done. So both cities raised armies. The armies met at the Battle of Zappolino on November 15, 1325. It was not a small engagement. Bologna fielded approximately 30,000 soldiers. Modena had far fewer, somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000. By any reasonable military calculation, this should have been a short battle. It was not. The conflict lasted 12 years, involved thousands of casualties, and drained both sides economically. Modena, despite being vastly outnumbered, won the Battle of Zappolino. Their smaller, more disciplined force outmaneuvered the Bolognese army and forced them to retreat. It was a humiliating defeat for the larger city. And the bucket, the cause of it all, remained in Modena, where it has been ever since. The war did not end at Zappolino. Battles continued for years. Skirmishes. Sieges. Alliances shifting, breaking, reforming. The Pope intervened repeatedly. The Holy Roman Emperor intervened on the other side. Other Italian city-states were pulled in, as they always were in the perpetual chess game of medieval Italian politics. By the time the fighting finally stopped, both cities had spent enormous resources, lost significant populations, and gained essentially nothing. Bologna never got the bucket. Modena never got anything it didn't already have before the bucket was stolen. Two prosperous cities spent 12 years and thousands of lives returning to approximately the same position they had been in before someone decided to steal a piece of well equipment. The bucket, through all of this, sat in Modena. There is a poem about the war. Written by Alessandro Tassoni in 1622, almost 3 centuries after the events, it is called La Secchia Rapita, which translates as the stolen bucket. It is a mock-heroic epic, written in the style of serious war poetry but telling the story of this particular conflict with the tone it deserved. The bucket in the poem becomes an object of enormous symbolic weight, its theft triggering divine intervention and the involvement of gods and goddesses in the fate of a piece of wooden well equipment. It was enormously popular. It went through multiple editions. It helped establish the mock-heroic as a legitimate literary form. It influenced later writers, including Alexander Pope, whose famous mock-heroic poem The Rape of the Lock was written in the same tradition. A war over a stolen bucket contributed, however indirectly, to the development of English literature. History works in unexpected ways. The bucket itself is an oak stave bucket, the kind made from wooden slats bound with iron rings, common throughout medieval Europe. It is not remarkable to look at. It has no particular beauty, no precious materials, no craftsmanship that distinguishes it from thousands of similar objects made in the same period. It is a bucket. It is a bucket that caused a 12-year war, inspired an Italian epic poem, influenced the development of English mock-heroic literature, killed thousands of people, ruined 2 economies, and currently sits in the Torre della Ghirlandina, the bell tower of the Modena Cathedral, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, on permanent display. Bologna has never officially stopped demanding it back. As of today, the bucket is still in Modena. The story of the War of the Bucket is funny. It is genuinely, objectively funny. 2 cities fighting for 12 years over a wooden pail from a well is one of the more absurd premises in the historical record, and it is worth laughing at. But it is also something else. Because the bucket was never really about the bucket. It was about respect, and sovereignty, and the impossibility of backing down once a line has been drawn. It was about the way humans attach enormous symbolic weight to small physical objects, not because the objects themselves matter but because giving them up means something that feels impossible to live with. The bucket was nothing. What the bucket represented was everything. And this is not a medieval problem. This is a human problem. The same logic that kept 2 14th-century Italian cities fighting for 12 years over a bucket operates in conflicts today, in international disputes, in workplace arguments, in family disagreements where the stated reason for the fight stopped being the real reason a long time ago. The bucket is always a bucket. What we're actually fighting about is something else entirely. This is that story.